Well, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a special treat for the first time ever from France. I welcome Mark. Please introduce yourself.
I'm an American, but I've been living here for a while. So if you test my French, I will fail spectacularly. So let's not,
Let's
don't
not do
test
that.
me.
Got it.
Luckily, they're very nice, and I think my mission has been to teach them English because everybody here, the village is lovely, and they always apologize for their lousy English. Oh, I'm just going to go with that and say, yeah, well, you should be. Anyway, I am now a published author living in the south of France. So I'm doing the Hemingway thing. And so the first book I wrote is called A Cup of Tea on the Commode. And so I guess the pitch is at 55, I became a first-time parent to a sharp-tongued, grumpy, stubborn as all get out, and yet funny lady who could barely remember my name, my mother. And so it still is, and hopefully we're gaining, but it's rare for a son to take on 24/7 caregiving. But I jumped in with gusto to fill my mom's last years with love, laughter, and
Oh,
joy, and not always successful, but I came pretty damn close. And so the book is about my 3.5 year, I call adventures with mom. But there's a lot of flashbacks and a lot of really funny stories because she was a very funny lady, and my dad was as well. And luckily, they passed on some of their genes to me. So
thank God.
yeah, yeah.
Well, oh, wait a minute. So this book that you wrote is about the experience with your mom. That's what I'm getting from
Well,
this?
it was really the main thing was the caregiving.
The caregiving. I have a lot of questions about that. First of all, thank you. And very commendable that you would like be there for your mom. That's really, really cool. What drove you to commit to that? I know she's mom. Let's take that
Yeah,
out of the equation.
that's
Uh,
that's the main thing. Yeah,
because a lot of people don't and they have moms, right? But
right.
what gave you that motivation to say this is my commitment, this is what I gotta do, this is what it's gonna be?
Well, there's 6 kids in the family, so I'm the youngest son, the tallest, and
Not to throw
the
that
fifth
in
out
there.
of the six. So I grew up with sisters. I learned a lot about taking care of women and stuff, other than learning
Oh.
how to put the toilet seat down, and so
So,
that was very helpful. And but I was living the carefree bachelor life in LA. I was an actor, but at that point my career was slowing down because I was aging out of that, and I wasn't a big star. Didn't have a powerful agent, so I was letting that kind of dwindle. But I also had a snack food business that my brother and I started to honor my dad,
okay.
and we were a national brand. It was very cool. We were the snack of the day on the Rachel Ray show, and it was this half pop popcorn snack we called Grandpa Poe's Originals. That was just really fun, but a lot of work. And so that was my main responsibility in LA. But I got a call in 2011. My mom was living in the house we all grew up in, and my brother called and said she just shut down. I put her to bed, and the doctor said cut off all meds and food and call hospice. And so I kind of freaked out because 14 years earlier, hospice was called for my dad, and 2 days later, he died. So
Oh.
we all flew home, and we were on death watch. We had a priest come in and deliver the last rites. And she was kind of, I call it a semi-comatose state. She's laying in her bed and didn't talk at all, barely opened her eyes, but she did respond to touch. And at that point, we had a family living upstairs, kind of overseeing household duties because she just turned 89. And my mom didn't like these people, and they didn't like her, but they hid it very well from us. And I think my mom was just very unhappy. And I think she said, if
Hmm.
this is going to be my life, I'm out of here. So she kind of tried to will herself to leave. And so we had a series of hospice nurses coming in, And they were great. And so my younger sister and I hung out with hospice because we wanted to learn how to take care of mom as long
Nice.
as she was going to be around.
Got it.
So we learned how to change the diapers, do the sponge bathing, handle any. She had bed sores at that time, which shouldn't have happened. We learned how to treat those and changing the bedding with the helpless patient in bed and stuff like that. So we learned all the tips and tricks. And someone always slept with my mom just in case. And
Mhm.
after a few weeks, we discovered that hospice nurses all kind of do their own thing. There is a directive from their supervisor, but they would come in. And so this one, we would meet them at the front door with the directive from their supervisor, because, again, a few others started to bend the rules. So this lady looked at it and said, great. And then she walked into my mom and she said, Mrs. Porro, are you hungry? And my mother's eyes popped open like it was a dinner bell. And then this lady accused us of it's trying to starve our mother to death, which
What?
was
What?
not the case. We were listening to hospice, and this one didn't. And so we got really upset with her, and she called her supervisor. And the supervisor said, get out of there. You broke the rules, and these kids are not trying to starve their mother. But, I guess if people didn't love their parents, that may not be that unusual, as we discovered. So mom woke up, and then now I'm feeling guilty because it had been probably about 3 weeks, no food, barely any liquid, just to moisten her lips and her tongue, but that
Oh
was
my
it. And
goodness.
so I go into mom and I say, Mom, are you hungry? And she said, what do you got? And that's the first word she spoke in about 3 weeks. So I said, well, anything you want. And she says, how about some pumpkin pie? Well, it's March. It's not exactly pumpkin pie season, but my brother, who lived locally, was in the living room. And so I asked him if he wanted to take on the challenge. And so he ran out, and within about 30 minutes, he came back with two fresh pumpkin pies. So
Go,
that was very
brother.
cool.
Good.
So, mom, the first spoonful she spit out. Again, it was the first food in weeks,
Of
so
course.
it wasn't easy. And the second spoonful went down fine. She ended up eating, I think, half the pumpkin pie the first day, but she was back. She was full of energy, and the color in her face was back, and mom was here. So that was great. And so the next day, she finished the second half of the pie, and then the next day, I think she finished the whole pie. And now she might have been riding the biggest sugar high in the world, but it was great because she was fine. At 89, it's like whatever. You
Yeah,
get
it's
whatever you want. You want to start smoking now? Sure. Heroin?
really
Yeah, whatever.
alcohol. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, she was great. So that was how it started, and it was I started looking around the house that I grew up in. It was no longer this loving, welcoming place that we all knew. And so um, I just kind of felt guilty and said, well, my mom, it's mom, so she deserves better. And so that started the wheels turning. I stayed several weeks with her to make sure she was certainly on the mend. And then I went back to LA, and then I came back in September for my nephew and her grandson's wedding. And I took care of her for a couple weeks, and she was very happy, and it was great. And so I knew that I had to step in and take a bigger part in all this. So that's when I asked her if she wanted me to come back, and she said yes. And two things I said. First, I said, first of all, you need to know we're going to have fun, and she
Yes.
was great. And I said, second of all, I will keep you healthy and safe and happy, but that means I'm in charge. And her mood completely changed. And because I said, you have to obey me now. But she puckered up for a kiss, and I wasn't sure if that was a
Oh,
sign of surrender or one wishing me luck. And so I gave her a kiss and hope for the best. And so it was. I call them my multitasking adventures. It's a subtitle, and she was great, but she could be a piece of work also. So
of
um,
course. That must have been very difficult. That look at how powerful the people that are around you can be. You literally, because of the energy you have with her, the love you have for her, the real care you and your family had, you basically like brought her back.
Yeah.
life.
I think that was the thing. I have a chapter in the book called A Silent Scream, and I think it was a cry for help.
God,
And with all her kids there, I think she sensed that, even though at that point she didn't open her eyes. She did respond to us holding her hand and touching and things like that. And so love was back in the house. And that I think
yeah.
that's what really woke her up. And
So
maybe the pumpkin pie people would
and
object,
the
but
sugar and
of course
but
they're going to
hey.
say, no, it was the pumpkin pie. So
So
anyway,
you saw a need with your mom, this need that she needed this love because that's what you saw, right? She needed more the love than anything. That was the taking care she needed. And so would you say it drove you in purpose? That became your purpose for that time?
yeah, well, it was, yeah, mom deserved better. And the toughest thing for me was, I had no kids. I was never married. And so this was my first child.
That's why you that's why you started it that way.
Yeah, and so I had to learn what unconditional love was. I had it kind of
Oh,
with pets and stuff like that, but it's a different story when you have a child, because her life was literally in my hands. I handled
yeah,
everything, and I had support certainly from my siblings. That's another thing I discovered is sometimes there's some issues with other families, but these guys were great. They knew I was going to jump in and give it my all, and they all yielded. And when I needed them, they were
wow.
there, and there was no conflict about who was taking care of mom and who trusted who and all that kind of stuff. So
What a
I was very
beautiful
fortunate, and that was
story.
the upbringing of my parents. They were great. They led by example more than like lecturing.
Got it.
We just watched them do the right thing, and my both parents were very strict Catholics, and so you learn how to. I mean, honor thy mother and father, and
That's
so I
right.
mean, my
It's
goodness,
in there.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
there.
yeah, there was no big deal. So the decision to move back and kind of change my whole life was easy. Working out the logistics took a little
That's the
time
hard part.
because I still had the business, and every few months I had to go back to LA. And then when I did that, my older sister, who lived in California, would come back and fill in for me for that week. And that was great because we always had one of the kids there taking care of mom.
Wow, so you really took a leadership role in this new phase of life for mom and family. You brought family together too, right? Because your siblings were there.
Well, there's a lot of, yeah, again, I'm the tallest. So I'm not sure.
I'm
There's
not,
no
so I
argument
can't say
there.
that.
I
So
said, don't
I know
mess
why
with
you're
me.
saying. I know
No,
why you're
they
saying.
were great, but yeah, I think I had, I tell people I've had a pretty adventurous life. And I moved to France without really knowing the language or anything like that. I
Parlez-vous.
just I just liked the idea of it, and the people in this little village when I visited about 8 years ago now, they were just lovely. And then I found this house. This house that I bought is almost 500 years old. So the history and the village and the
What?
history with the
That sounds fun.
cobblestones and all that, it's very cool.
Let- let-
Um, so but any adventure that I jump in, my motto is find the joy.
Find the joy.
So if you focus on the joy and the positive part, boy, it makes everything else so much
Yeah, it's
easier.
a mindset. It just
And
really is. It
yeah,
really
and
is.
and it's a challenge, I guess, for some because even my oldest sister, hope she doesn't listen to this. Um,
We'll
she
block her. What's the email? We'll block her from no, I'm
okay.
only playing.
She was the first child, and I think my mother, from what my sister said, was a lot tougher on the girls. So she had three girls and three boys, and
Mm,
and me being the youngest son, maybe I got away with a lot more
got it. Got it.
than the others. But my sister said she had a seven day limit, and that was it. But she just couldn't. I don't know. I guess find the joy in it, and that
Got
was
it. So
maybe a little
that
disappointing,
was
but
your trick to stay passionate about it, to find the joy in in that situation.
well,
That's how you
if you start off with that attitude, that certainly helps.
got it.
But then you put the goal was to make mom happy, and also a goal
Mm,
for me was to make her laugh at least once a day.
Oh my God,
So
that is
that takes a lot of
beautiful,
pressure
man.
off,
That is
unless she doesn't
beautiful.
laugh. Then, it's getting near midnight and you got to go, what? So
It's
I mean,
beautiful.
we had fun, and I would do. She was a, kind of a goofball at times too. So she was Irish, or Irish descent, and so one day she wasn't laughing. So I did the river dance,
Wait, what's
which
the
made her laugh, but made my shins cry. So I would do just
wait,
goofy
what's the
stuff.
river dance? That's
The river
the
dance is that the Irish dance from the
yeah, it's
yeah,
like
you kick yourself in the shins like crazy, but uh, somebody thinks it's funny. Thank
somebody had to do it, right? The
yeah.
mom.
So just silly stuff like, and she was funny too. She would do. One time I was getting, I would give her two sponge baths a day in the morning and getting her ready for bed at night, and it's a process. And so I'm just about to tape her diaper closed, and she starts peeing on me.
No.
And that's cute if you have a newborn peeing on a new mother, but not when your 90-year-old mother pees on her kid. And so I'm going, Mom, why now? I mean, I've just finished. And she says, it's natural. How can you be mad? I mean, it was there. So I
Oh,
just started all over again. There was another time she had a
oh my
lot of
God,
really
dude.
good comebacks. So another time, she said, "Why do you treat me so good?" And I said, "Because you're my mother and you deserve to be treated like a queen." And then she
Oh.
burped. And I said, "But queens don't do that." And she goes, "How do you know?" So,
Yeah, the great lady. That's someone I would have loved to meet. So
yeah.
let me ask you this: what do you think the biggest lesson mom gave you, whether it be in your childhood or now throughout this process that you went through? What are the biggest lessons she left to you?
Well, there's I guess a bunch. She had certainly unconditional love. She never,
Mm.
never, I guess, I never felt unsupported and loved and stuff, even though when I did some bad stuff. I did do a thing, and it's in the book. I was no angel, certainly growing up, and um, I I stole a bike when I was like 12. I have a whole chapter about my bad route and my
About your
worst
robbery
friends.
spring.
The worst influences on me were all my friends from Catholic school. They were terrible. I didn't become straight, the straight arrow until I went to public school. Not totally,
It's
but
supposed to be
boy,
the
they're
other way
bad.
around, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I did miss out on the Catholic girls who wanted to be rebellious. I was a
Dude,
little
you're
upset about
funny.
that.
I'm gonna tell you something. You're very funny. You are funny in a very casual way. Like you don't notice you're going into a joke until it's over and you realize it's funny. So I just have to let
Oh,
you know.
good.
Very
Well,
funny.
again, that's my folks.
Yeah.
Humor. That's another lesson. Humor plays a huge role in this, certainly, because it's emotionally, physically, and psychologically exhausting.
Yeah.
Caregiving, and so humor really helps. My
Plus,
mom and dad, neither one really swore. So mom would say things like nincompoop or fudgy wudgy,
fudgy
or if
wudgy.
she was really angry, she'd say, "Oh, you make me want to spit." And I'm like, "Whoa,
I mean,
well, she's angry." And with my dad, it seemed like food came to mind because he would say, call people chowderheads and get the ham out of here, and you're full of soup.
you're full
So
of
he had food in his mind, and mom was
oh
just
my God.
keeping it clean. So I didn't follow that route, and I knew if I swore, it would upset my mother. And there were a couple times where I did have to let loose with a few choice words, and so then I'd see she'd be upset, and I would have to apologize and say, "Listen, mom, I'm sorry, but boy, being a parent is tough." And this is a
No,
woman who raised six, and she said, "Yeah, but I never swore." So she
another
was very
comeback.
good at guilt tripping. I'll
Yes,
say
I
that.
see. I see.
Jewish mothers invented guilt tripping, but Catholic mothers perfected it.
They perfected it. I like that. And I think that's so. So let's talk about your book. Like why write this book? What was your purpose behind getting this book out there?
Well, I've been a writer, and I did
Yeah.
writing in Hollywood and stuff like that, and I did
Ooh,
stand up for a bit, but I wrote
there you
jokes and I
go.
wrote screenplays and things
There
like
you
that.
go.
And always liked to record family history. I was curious about our family. We had some interesting stories. My great grandfather came over from Italy with some rumors about why he escaped Italy, and um, and stuff like that. And uh, I was privy to some really interesting conversations and special moments with mom that I didn't want the rest of the family to miss out on. So I just started recording stuff. I also shot a lot of video and photographs as well, but I took a lot of notes. And while I was going through this, being a baby boomer, a lot of us are going to go through this, or all of us are going to go through it
Yeah.
from one level or another. And I had another friend going through it with her dad. And so I shared some of my tips and tricks with her, and she seemed to get some benefit out of it. So I said,
Oh,
I think I got something here that can help.
yes.
And it's not a how-to book. It's a what I did book. And there's some tips in there, but it's
God.
just the experience that I went through how I got through it, it was a lovely experience. Other than guilt tripping and not swearing with mom, was really caring. She cared for everything. Boy,
Mm.
we had a lot of pets in the house. Everything from dogs and cats to mice and rats and guinea pigs and the whole thing. My mother took care of, if any of them was ill or facing, the end of their lives. Boy, she just tried to nurture them back, and we would witness this thing, just the care that she put into all these little lives, and it was very special. And we just watched this stuff growing up, and we said, well, this is the right thing to do. So certainly, taking care of mom was not a big leap.
Look at that. Look at what she instilled in you guys ended up helping her. Isn't
Yeah.
that's mind blowing? And I'm pretty sure while she was doing it, that wasn't the intention. She was
Right.
trying to give you a good life and for
No,
you.
that mouse was not going to die that night, and so she kept up.
When you
And
said
I
mouse
wasn't
for real,
alive.
it was for
My
real.
older brother, who's 6 years older, witnessed this. It was like the first mouse death in the family that was happening, and mom nurtured this thing back, and it lived,
Mm.
I guess, a few more mouse years, which was lovely. And my brother witnessed that, so he told me that story, and I put that story in the book. So
Nice.
there's a lot of really cool uh, backstories in the book, but there's also stories that help support why I did what I did.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, wow, she is an amazing person, was an amazing person. She full of this caretaking thing of hers is amazing. Like she it looks like that was her personality. She wanted to make sure she took care of things. That's amazing. I love this story.
It's
It
pretty
is a
cool.
really, really good. Like it fills me. I'm gonna call my mom after you. I'm telling you because
Oh, yeah, well, you're going to feel a lot different, I think, after you read the book. But I'll tell you,
definitely.
the is not a proud moment for me, but it was one of the guilt tripping moments. So, mom suffered from some depression over the years. She hid it very well while I was growing up, but before this incident, the couple years before, she would go get down and go into some really deep thing and just made sure everybody else was miserable around her. And so she wasn't a lot of fun to be around.
Got it.
And so when I was taking care of her, rarely did that happen, but once in a while she would just shut down and be non-responsive,
Mm.
so I would do all the cooking as well as all the caregiving. So I would try to cook really nice, healthy meals. So this one particular meal I cooked, and she would not eat it. She just shut down at the kitchen table. And so I said, Mom, listen, you got to eat. You got to keep up your strength. And she just wouldn't respond. And so I said, listen, I do all the cooking and cleaning. I do this and this and this, and I wipe your butt several times a
Yeah.
day. You need to show some appreciation. You need
Nice.
to eat your dinner. And she refused. So I flicked off the lights in the kitchen and then went downstairs to take my frustration out on an innocent load of laundry. And so I slammed down the washing lid and turned the wash on and went back upstairs for round two. I turned a light on in the kitchen, and my mom's sitting, obviously, she was in a wheelchair at this point. She's sitting with her hands crossed on her lap. Her plate is clean, and the utensils, or the knife and fork, are sitting on the plate. She ate in the dark her entire meal. So
What? Look
killed
at
me. So
you, man. I love this story so much. So let me ask you this because I like people learning things, right? If someone is going through what you just went through of being a caregiver to their parent, what is the biggest hurdle they are going to face? I know it depends on the person, but generally, what is the biggest hurdle in doing this?
well, there's a couple of things. One, I would say you have to be comfortable doing whatever you're doing. I was very comfortable doing all of it. But let's say two of my siblings were not. They were very hands off, but they helped in other ways.
Got it.
So if you're not comfortable in that role, don't do it because your loved one will feel guilt and they will be, I think, resentful that they put you in this position.
Mhm.
So be comfortable in whatever role. If you're going to be a supervisor, if you're going to do, let's say, just handle the finances, something, do whatever you're comfortable doing, no matter how much you
I
love or do
love
not
it.
love, let's say, this person. Um, and then I would say you have to have certainly empathy for your loved one because they are still, let's say, if it's your mom or your father, you need to know they're not the same person
That's
they
right.
were when you were growing up. They're slower. They may not have I guess, the acuity they used to. They certainly can't move. They may not have the memory. My mom didn't know who I was when I first took over. And I thought she was kidding because, again, she had a wicked sense of humor. And one morning she says, so what is it I call you?
Oh,
And we are several months into this at this point. And I said, you're kidding, right? She says, no. And I said, name your kids. And she says, Laurel, Michael, Carol, David, DC. And, and she had no idea. So I said, Mark. She goes, Mark. Mark with a K? I said, yeah. Your favorite son, Mark with the K. And she says, I don't have favorites. And I said, well, you have a favorite to forget. And so
oh,
I could have taken that personally, but I didn't.
yeah,
It's
that's
like,
what I was
okay,
gonna ask you. Like,
not, I,
how hard did you take it personal, and how hard was it? But yeah, your
right.
answer.
I rolled with it. And so what I did is I wrote my name in big block letters and taped it to the ceiling
Oh,
because when I would wake her up in the morning, she'd be laying in bed.
and
And so I'd say good morning, and she'd say good morning, and then her eyes would shoot to the ceiling, and then
nice,
go Mark, and then come down and feel very happy. So
nice, nice. Yes,
we
empathy.
we played a pretty fun game with that. But I do have a chapter. So out of all the kids, I'm the one wiping her butt at least twice a day
Hmm.
for months and months. So I have a chapter in the book, does wiping butt cause amnesia? And and I have proof that it does.
Your personality is amazing.
Hey, I'm here all week
I
teaching
love it. I
English.
love it. I love it. I love it. Let me ask you this. What skills, like from your past careers, helped you in taking care of mom? Like what did
Everything.
everything?
So I was I guess, pretty clever kid. My dad was a chemist, but also pretty clever. So I learned, I was very inquisitive and would come up with my own inventions. And I was very good with my hands. So I built award-winning furniture when I was a kid and carved and things like that. And then I got my degree in industrial design from the Ohio State University, national champions. But we'll move on. And so
We could do
industrial design was great because it married all my loves. It was math, science, and art all put together. And then I was an actor in LA for 28 years. And so all of those things kind of came together for mom
Mhm.
because when I first, at least for a son, I'm seeing my mother naked for the first time, and she's
Got it.
89. So you got to get over it and get on with it because I took on the role of caregiver,
Yes.
and so I had a job to do. So it was no longer the son being timid or whatever. It's like, hey, listen, I'm a caregiver now, so it's still my mom, but I can't be hesitant to do what I needed to do to care for her. So that was a big deal. Humor certainly was a big thing as well. But I did some things, I got get her an iPad at one point so she could communicate with her other her kids and stuff like that. And so I
No.
built the iPad. There wasn't a rolling iPad stand at that point. So I created one
Oh, there goes from your career.
and stuff like, yeah. So
Good.
it came in and just practical things. You say,
Yeah.
okay, this is not good. So what can I do to fix it? So two things that were very important because I think as a son, I took on more of a romantic approach. So again, when I first got back there, my mother was wearing these like drab day dresses or night dresses, and she looked like an old lady. And her hair wasn't really taken care of and wore no makeup or anything like that. And so the first thing I did is I said, I've got to return some dignity to my mom. So I bought her a new wardrobe
Oh,
and I bought her some pretty cool stuff. But I discovered there's a fashion niche that needs to be filled because I went out looking in the department stores and it was a little creepy, I guess, for a middle-aged guy to be looking for
I didn't even think about that. Right?
women's clothing, and they go, "Oh, this is great. What are you doing,
You
you
have this in a
freak?"
size.
But I couldn't find anything good. It was the same
Really?
stuff that mom was wearing, just in better shape. And then I went online and tried to do it. And again, I put in like search terms, day wear and night wear for seniors, and it was the same junk. So I took off seniors and said, "Give me some day dresses and night dresses," and I got some nice bright colors with bright blue and pink, and I have one I say, dare I say, sexy black,
Sexy
and
black.
my mom's legs were still in pretty good shape, so I got them on the short side so she could show off her legs, and you want to cheer anybody up at any age, a wardrobe will kind of do that. So that was
Yes.
lovely. And
Yes.
then
It's a
my mom, with 6 kids, she worked full time. She was a proofreader for the largest newspaper in New Jersey for 30 years. But she treated herself once a week to the beauty trip to the beauty parlor where she got a shampoo and set and had her nails done. She had beautiful nails, all natural, and she was a nail model back or a hand model back in her late teens
look
and
at
20s.
that.
So those nails were like the crown
They will
jewels.
always
And then when she would visit me in LA, I would take her to my friend's beauty salon in Beverly Hills, and she got this movie star treatment, which I knew she loved. So at this point, I didn't know when the last time she was at a beauty salon or was treated to something like that. So I decided to create, I called it the Day of Beauty. And
oh,
normally I gave her, the 2 sponge baths a day, but on Day of Beauty, I would soak her feet in Epsom salts while she sat on the commode, and I would wash her hair and then take care of any medical issues and then give her a full body massage. And then she chose her wardrobe after we got her, a diaper on and stuff like that. And then I blow dried her hair and put it in a ponytail or braided it for bonus points, and then got her ready to go to breakfast. But I did her nails and then topped it off with some nice bright red lipstick to match the nails.
oh,
And I
so I
didn't,
see what you mean when you say took the romantic approach, like
yeah,
making her feel like a woman. So
pretty.
yeah, good
And what I
idea.
learned also is wanting to feel pretty does not
Yes,
go with age. It does not disappear. And
it
so
doesn't.
I just thought it was a nice gesture,
It was.
not no big deal. But I wheeled her in to the kitchen for breakfast, and we pass a big round mirror in the dining room. And so I parked her in front of that mirror, and the look on her face was just fabulous.
Oh,
And I leaned in and I
dude.
just said, "Who's that pretty girl?" And she
Oh,
beamed.
dude.
And so that was, and it was infectious because everybody saw how happy she was, and I parked her in front of that mirror every day and asked her that same question. So,
Do you
wanting to feel
know?
beautiful doesn't end at 90, and
Do you know how inspirational this is with
well, I
this
hope so. Yeah,
experience?
because it's again, these
It
these
really
little things that
is.
we take for granted.
Yes.
And it's like
Yes.
even my dad, a couple days before he passed, my sister, he was always clean shaven and really cared about his hair being combed. He had a comb, I think, in his pocket all the
All
time.
the time.
And so, he was going to meet Jesus soon. So we gave him a nice clean shave a couple days, and he was just so happy about it because he wanted to see Jesus, the way he should have, not like this, but
Got it.
clean shaven and hair combed, and it was lovely. So even for men too, they want to look their best
Yes,
and
it's
feel good about it.
important
And so
in mental health, like in coaching and mental health. That's one of the techniques. If you're having a lousy day, go get dressed up. Go look at yourself in the mirror. It makes a difference of how we look to
yeah,
ourselves. So
yeah.
let's talk about the book. So I went into your website and I see a lot of awards. That's for this book? You have all those awards?
Another one just came today. It's getting crazy. Yeah, it's my first
What?
book. So there's 15 so far. And another one that I think there's a couple more we're up for that we'll find out in the spring or something. But yeah,
Oh,
it's
this is
very nice. I
amazing.
mean, you kind of get the idea. I had some good experience writing screenplays and stuff, but this is my first book, and
Got it.
I knew it was going to be a memoir, so I had to study the genre, and so I did that actually from France. I had a great memoir teacher, Marion Roach Smith, who's wonderful, and she was also, I hired her to be my first editor of the book. So I knew the book was pretty good. I mean, there was good stories in it, but structure was going to be difficult because I was doing these flashbacks. And if I just wrote this as a chronological story of, Baba, it would have been kind of boring.
Got it.
So I alternated all these backstories. And so she helped quite a bit with the structure. And then I actually found a publisher that was interested, which is, it's rare for an unknown to get a publisher.
Yes.
Um,
Big time.
and at that point, I was in my 60s. So to get a publisher at that age was great. I mean, luckily, I think the acquisition editor was from the same place in Long Island where my parents were from. So this resonated with her.
Got it.
And I didn't find that out until later, but they contacted. I actually had two publishers who were interested, but this one was more interested in quality. The other one wanted to get it out fast. And I
Got it.
said, no, I'm going with quality.
Quality.
And we spent about an hour and a half, I mean, an hour and a half, hour and a half, year and a half
Got
going
it.
over it
Big
with
difference.
two editors. And it was great. I still had the final word on everything, but they were great. And so, but
How
it was
does
interesting because they said no first. And for some reason, they're a small independent publisher, but maybe they do like 50 books a year or something. But they said no, and for some reason I followed up, and with every other rejection, because I had a lot of rejections, of
of
course.
course.
But for some reason I thought this one was important, so I contacted him and said, "Let me ask you a question. Does my living in France have anything to do with you saying no?" And they said yes, because foreign authors do not understand American marketing. And so I think all my other rejections might have been because I had the French address. So I told her, listen, I'm from New Jersey. I know marketing. And so I've been, obviously marketing this thing like crazy, which is also good because that came out of, my design and also marketing yourself as an actor. So all that experience has helped promote this book. And some people
It's
are
some
going, oh my
good.
God,
I
just
mean,
relax.
your life is like you're walking lessons. Believe it or not, like just in this small conversation you just had, you gave three like great lessons to people that like are looking for their success or looking for what
What
they
are
want in their
they?
life. The first one is you just showed age does not matter.
Right.
How successful for you this book is it's a success, right? It's something you were, and look, you just said you did it at your six, and a lot of people, that's one of the things they go through where they're like, I'm 60 and they're thinking what, like, it's not that it's the end, but what can I do successful? There. The next lesson, the rejection. You handled the rejections very well by following up. And look, that follow up gave you a really good tip on how to handle it from now on. So
Yeah.
you know that, right? If you write another book, you know that's something to look out for when you're shopping the publishers. That's
Right.
like amazing. And I'm looking at the awards, people. I mean, you have to go into this gentleman's website. He has really good awards and big awards. I mean, so which one of those for you are were the most like exciting of those awards? Like,
Well, I'd say the first one,
no,
because you
yeah,
have no
good
idea. I mean,
answer.
the
Good answer.
the the
Good
the
answer.
the critic reviews and the reader reviews have been lovely, and those are the most important. I mean, but the
Wow,
awards are nice for exposure,
of course.
and the press release and all, but mainly for exposure. The things that are really meaningful are these. I've gotten some personal notes from people that have just killed me. One was just it's someone from my hometown. I think half of the people from my hometown in New Jersey are on Facebook because I keep getting all these friend suggestions, and they're all from readers.
Yeah, that's
And the
Facebook.
support has been fabulous because
Nice.
a lot of these people, once I left for college, I never was back there really. And so I've lost touch with a lot of these people for over 50 years. And we're reconnecting and reconnecting
Nice.
with other family members. They're saying, "Oh, I knew your brother. Oh, I knew, I got other people. My dad was a baseball coach." He said, "Oh, yeah, your father used to coach me," and stuff like that. And it's very cool because I'm hearing stories about their relationships with other family members, which is
Wow,
very,
you're
so now I'm
inspiring.
that's a lovely thing that I never thought about. When you put this book out, you just put your heart and soul into something and you hope it resonates. But now we've opened up all these communication lines, which have been lovely. But this one, I think the most touching one, why I have a couple. One is funny and one isn't. So the funny one was a friend of mine from LA is originally from New York, and she heard about the book, and she said, "Mark, I would love to support and read your book, but my father just died a month ago, and I'm not ready for it." And I said, I understand. There's no rush. Okay, I'm really sorry for your loss. I obviously I've been through it, so I know. And about a month later, she was going back to New York for 4th of July weekend, and so she keeps me up to date on Facebook. So she shows a picture. Look what I'm packing for my trip, the
Oh,
book. And then while she's in the flight, she goes, "Oh, I'm on this chapter." And then there's a couple of pretty wild chapters. And she said, "Oh my God, Mark, the flight attendant's wondering why I'm rolling in the aisle. This chapter is killing me." And it was great. So that was a lovely thing because
of
she
course.
couldn't get near it, and then once she got near it, it helped her.
Yeah, you helped to get through that.
Yeah.
That's
And then
that's
someone
amazing.
else wrote me, and I don't know this person, but she went to my high school, and she found out about it, and she said, "I bought your book, and I'm reading it with my mother. My mother's 95, and I'm really enjoying it." And then she writes me again, and she says, "My mom is now 96, and I'm reading your book again because I liked it
Oh,
so much, and I'm getting some more out of it." And I said, "That's lovely." And then I heard from her a couple months later, and she said, um, "I wanted to let you know my mother died a couple of weeks
mm.
ago, but your book helped me get through it because of the humor you put in it. And I thank you for that." And I'm
Oh
like,
man. So that's
that was lovely and certainly really, I mean, raw and generous of her to share that with me. And it was, yeah. So when you get those things, the
so
awards is,
the biggest accolade to you is inspiring people, taking care of people. You're still doing it even through
yeah.
your
Well,
writing. This is
that's
amazing.
yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do because
It's doing
it
it.
it still falls on mainly on the women of the family.
Of
It's
course.
like a 60-40 split, but we're catching up. A
We're
lot of the
getting there. We're
guys,
getting there.
yeah, a lot of the guys that who've responded to the book have been in that role, and so.
All right. So how do they get this book? Do you want to shout out some of your contact info links?
Well, if they Google, I'll tell you the story of the title. So it's called A Cup of Tea on the Commode, And my mom's favorite drink was a cup of hot tea, skim milk, no sugar. And sometimes when we had a Commode bedside, because she no longer walked, and so sometimes Mother Nature took a little longer than was comfortable for either one of us on the Commode. So one day, kind of as a silly gesture, I said, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea while we're waiting?" And she said, "Sure." So I made her a cup of tea, and it became a hit. So that was our morning ritual, a cup of tea on the
Oh,
Commode.
so
And
much meaning behind all of it. That's why it's a
yeah.
success. This is
So
really
if
good.
if if they Google a cup of tea, and we're everywhere. I mean, I got
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even some TikTok. I got a YouTube channel with a lot of funny little teasers. The email is a cup of tea on the commode at gmail.com. But Amazon has all four versions. So we have
Okay.
the paperback, large print paperback, ebook, and also I did the audiobook.
Yes.
Um,
Did
oh,
you speak it? Did you do the
yeah, I had
narrating?
to. Yeah.
Yes, you had
But,
to.
you
You
know,
had
so I had the book was released on Mother's Day, and
more meaning.
I wanted to do the audio book, but I'm really emotional, especially when it comes to family.
Of
So
course.
I could not get through it. So it took several months, and all my acting skill and training had to come into. So I built a studio here in my apartment and recorded it, and it was released before Christmas.
Nice.
But it's interesting. So I had about a 6 month gap between the book coming out and the audio book. So I had interesting time to reflect, and also my siblings let me know there were a couple things that were incorrect in the book. So I corrected those in the audio book. And also, I think I embellished because I think over that time I became a better writer. So there's certain
Of course.
moments that are a little bit better. And then I do voices, and I had some sound effects and stuff
Oh,
like that.
that's the one I'm getting. I want because
So
I want to hear you.
it's kind
That's
of fun. Yeah, well,
yeah.
you're going to hear
I'm
like
gonna
well
do it. I'm
this,
gonna
but
do it.
there's some fun stuff. But during that time, if you listen to the story and even listen to the first part of this of your show, it seems like I went back and I rescued my mom. And then upon reflection, and this is where my mom's lesson comes in, I think she rescued me
Oh, no.
because,
Oh, that was beautiful. There's no
yeah,
other ways to
because
describe what you just said.
she gave me this opportunity, and
Yes.
fortunately, I jumped on it. Uh, and she, because at that point, I did a lot of good things, and maybe some bad things too, but
Of course.
nothing really meaningful. And so this was the most important thing I did in my life, and
Wow.
it was great. Stressful certainly at times, but my mom left this earth the way anybody I think would envy. She was surrounded by love, and I was actually with both of my parents when they took their last breath, and that's a surreal a moment. But she was happy, very little, if any, pain, and surrounded by love, and in her bed, in her home. And my dad died in his bed in home also. So it was a way to go. So I thank certainly mom for that, and I think through her stories and our adventures, we're helping other people deal with this. So
And I know it does, and I know it will. Thank you for sharing your story. You have shown how powerful love is, and the barriers it could break down, and the purpose that it can create, and the success that it could build. Love. This was a great interview. I feel honored that you sat down with me, like really honored. I do want to hear more from you. Yeah, somebody go get that book. I'm getting it as soon as I get off of here. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
my pleasure. And also, yeah, keep me posted on what you think of when you're actually listening to it.
I will. Thank you
Yep.
so much, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Repeat after me. I